Welcome to the Blissful Bonus Mom podcast. I'm SimplyNicaise, and she's
TheAngelaSheree.
and we are mothers who just talk motherhood, family, faith, and everything in between. So, as you all should know, or kind of know by now, that I have an older stepson and a younger baby. And she also has a daughter in her teens, and she will be getting another daughter soon. That's so funny. I got 2 boys, 2 girls. So a lot of the things I realize is some people tend to ask, how do you build that individual bond with your stepchild? Because you got to think about it. People that have multiple kids, they have to kind of build a relationship with each individual child.
Right.
My biggest advice right now, I'm going to give you guys some tips, but my biggest advice right now is if you consider that stepchild to be your child, think of it as your child. Like, what are the individual things that you would want to do with that child? One of the first things I would say is learn that person. You have to learn
Mm-hmm.
that person. The same way you have to learn your child. Um, one day they might like a certain food, the next day they're not. Like, I feel like that's with anybody you meet in life. When you were dating your spouse, you had to learn your spouse. You learn their likes, their dislikes, and you just do things together and see what works. When you have a baby, you don't know that person. You learn that baby as you continue to grow. You spend time with that baby. You learn that baby. So, personally, for me, when I first met, my stepson, he was only 1, so it was luckily for me. I kind of grew with him. But one of the things I noticed is that he loves going outside. I love going outside. So because of that, I kind of let him lead the way. So when we would go outside, I'll be like, what do you want to do? And if you're really willing to learn that person, you get involved in the activity that they want to do. He was a little baby. I want to throw some rocks. That's what he told me. All right, you want to throw some rocks? Well, let's find some rocks and let's throw them. That's fine. We could do that together. And in his head, it's probably like wiring in his head saying, "Oh, she's willing to throw rocks with me. I have somebody I can throw rocks with, and it's not a problem." So I know you're laughing, but that's how it works for me. I figure like,
I
okay,
get it.
yeah, like that's the bond that I'm like building with him. Like I'm doing something that he loves to do. What about you? What do you have for the folks?
So I will say this: my situation is definitely different because my bonus baby is out of state.
Mm.
So building that personal bond it's more difficult. It requires more work, but it is manageable. You can do it. I think the best piece of advice I could give is don't force it. The worst thing you can do is force a relationship with anyone, let alone a child who is getting accustomed to someone else being in their
Yeah.
life. Um, and aside from not forcing it, I would say talking. Something you said is very interesting because as a bio mom, as well as a bonus mom, I can say that a lot of us as bio parents, we don't always talk to our children.
Mm.
We don't always get to know our children. We don't always ask questions. We may feel like we know them in infancy and toddler age and school age because we're watching and we're writing these milestones and all of these things. But when they get to a certain age, I myself have learned that I didn't know my daughter like I thought I did. When she hit that teenage, those teenage years, I was like, who is this? Hello, where's my daughter? Even now, she likes a lot of things. And I'm like, oh, you like that? I didn't know you like that. And it's just because sometimes we think that we know because we're their parents. And so I would say the same this to bio and bonus parents, to talk to your children, your bonus babies, in order to get to know them and to build that bond, because you don't know unless you just talk to them, and they will tell you what they like and don't. They will tell you how they feel about you. They will tell you what they think. When we decided to get married, that was what I did. I talked to her. How do you feel about it? You know, I can feel like you're okay all day, but how do you feel? What do you think? And the only thing she had to say was, I'm happy. And will there be chocolate cake at the wedding? It was easy, you know? But I would say that with my daughter, I didn't have that skill set. And because I didn't have that skill set, it caused us to almost navigate in the home of strangers, because I think I know her, she thinks she knows me,
Wow.
and we're still navigating and getting to know each other. So talk to your children, bio or bonus parents, because a lot of times that's how a bond can be made, just by talking and listening and
I was
listening.
gonna say that, like, as you were speaking now, um, I just realized one of the biggest things in any relationship, spousal, parenting, whatever, is communication. And
Mm-hmm.
communication is key. And the reason I laugh is because I'm not a big talker in my marriage. My husband loves to communicate, and I'm just like, I don't feel like talking about this right now. And, but you see how important it is when you communicate. And one of the things that my husband says that he hates that people do is assume. And as you were
Mm-hmm.
talking, is that like all of that is an assumption because we think we know our child, or they think they know that, but it is all an assumption. And it's just better to ask questions, communicate. Oh my gosh, my husband will be proud of me. He think I don't be listening to him sometimes because I don't say anything in response. But I do listen to him. It's just at the moment I don't be wanting to hear it. But he is absolutely right how important it is to communicate and not assume. And I think once you get the communication down, that's where, like you said, that bonding will naturally happen.
Naturally, yeah.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It really is
Without
as simple as just talking to the person.
It is. And I will say that there's detriment done when you do not. And again, I think that's where me and my daughter were probably a year ago, to the point where we can't talk because we went so long without talking.
Yeah,
And that happens, in relationships as well, because the other person's like, I've been trying to talk and now you're trying to, and it just, then you can't hear each other. And I will say, I am not the biggest communicator unless it's about stuff that needs to be done. Then you won't hear my mouth. And I'm sure I know my fiance be like, girl, no. Sometimes he'd be like, uh-huh. What did I just say? He'd be like, I don't know. Because he just tunes me out. But I'm still learning how to communicate effectively without rambling, without putting a whole lot in one. I try. Still learning how to do that, because it wasn't something that's taught. You're not typically taught communication. And if you didn't see it growing up, as an adult, you're learning a skill set that you never saw. And so
absolutely.
it could be difficult. It could be difficult.
Yeah, and one of the things I wanted to add in the importance of communication is learning how that person communicates. And I say that in a sense
Absolutely.
of like, you know how people talk about like people's love language and things like that or whatever. People really do communicate in different ways. Like, so I would go as far to say, I'm not saying, oh yeah, go test your child, make your child take a test to see what their love language is or anything. Like, I'm not saying do all of that. But because of the knowledge you do already have of your child, notice certain patterns that they may carry and stuff, and me like, okay, maybe I can communicate effectively better when they're in this mood or that mood, whatever the case may be. And then when you do ask questions, you can ask them like, how do you like this? Or what's a good way for us to, talk over this or whatever the case may be. Like, say, for example, my husband and I, because I can't really say anything about the kids because one is an 8-month-old and the other one's a 5-year old. There's not much to really go on with that. But like when it comes to communicating between my husband and I, he's the person, like when there's a conflict, he likes to resolve it right there and then. I'm the one that likes to sit in it and think about certain stuff before getting into it. That's two different ways that we communicate, and how we come to, a resolution is that sometimes, depending on the, because it does depend, depending on the conversation or the conflict, if it's something that's super important that needs to be handled at that moment, then yeah, we can hash it out right there. Will I be comfortable? No, but it's gonna get done. But other times, if it's not that big of a deal, if it's not life or death, he has to be okay with waiting as well for me to think about it and to sit in it and to sit when I'm ready, to talk about it. So like you said earlier, don't be forceful with your child. Um if they're not ready to talk about something, cool off a little bit. But if it's something that's life or death, then be like, no, we need to talk about this right now or whatever. So I think it just really depends on all the scenarios, but I do believe it can be worthwhile trying to learn your child in a way that they see, like, okay, my parent is trying and they love me, and they can
Right.
see that you're not just trying to bombard them or control them or whatever the case may be. There's like, you're coming from a loving aspect and wanting to know them, and I know they want that.
Yeah. And truthfully, they may not always get it, even if you change your approach. It's just, the other piece of communicating is comprehension
Yeah.
and perspective.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's still going to be what it is. But I will say what keeps coming to my mind is less is more. And I think as women, we have to really watch that in our communication with our children and our spouses and others, especially in conflict. Sometimes less is more. Sometimes saying it and leaving it there and not feeling the need to have examples, Angela, and you did this on this day. And this happened on this day and at this time, and that's why I feel like this today. And it's like, no, sometimes less is more. You don't have to, be over the top. And as it pertains to building a bond with your bonus child, you don't have to go in full throttle in the beginning, just doing the
That's
most. Less is
true.
more.
They
Just
they
have
ain't gonna like
fun.
forever now.
And they know, like, kids are very observant and they know when
Absolutely.
you're doing too much and you're over the top. And so less is more. You don't have to come in doing the most. Just be who you are, be kind, be respectful, get a gauge for this child, pay attention, listen. But you don't have to do too I've seen that, and that's all I would say. I've seen that, and it's
So
cringy.
let me ask, do you think so? Because I'm pretty sure we'll have different mothers with different children and different age ranges. Um, because you know more of like that teenage life right now, because that's what you're going through. And I'm more so, I'm really in like the toddler little kid life. And right now, toddlers, all they love to do is just play. They just want somebody to play with them and get along with them, and like, hey, you like this TV show? Oh, I like this TV show too. Boom, quick bond. You get what I'm saying? So I don't know. I think it just hits everybody differently. Um, because all the things that you're saying, I love it. And I feel like it'll be super effective towards the mothers that's dealing with children. What age would you say? Maybe like 8 up, 7?
I don't know. I think we don't give kids enough credit. I think even if they're young, they still want you to be attentive and
Oh
communicate with
no,
them. Now their communication may
absolutely.
be limited. So I don't know if I would even put an age, but I guess I say school age and up. I
No,
guess
I
I
yeah,
don't know.
I agree with you as well.
You know.
No, like I get it. Kids are extremely smart. For sure. No, the reason I just put that is because the same way you speak to a teenager is not going to be the same way you speak to a toddler. You got to speak to them differently. Still effective, communicate with them effectively, of course, but it is going to be different. It might be a little bit easier with a toddler, maybe a little bit easier, because at that age they're still, their minds are still kind of like sponges versus something that's kind of set.
Right.
But yeah, that's the only reason why I said it like that.
Yeah, I get you. So yeah, I would say, I guess in my experience with my bonus baby being 8 and my daughter being 16, yeah, between that tween to teenage age,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think you just knowing your child, like I think you just gauge where your child is, because I have 3 nieces, and I think like 5, 6, and 7 or something, or 5 and both 2 of them are 6, girl. I don't know. I can't keep up. But they are like sharp. They are
Yeah.
witty. And if I try to talk to them like, I don't know, they'd be like, I'm sorry, TC, are you talking to us? Like they're like wise beyond their
Yeah.
years, and they catch every little thing. You like, you think you're like talking over their heads. They're like, I know what you said. You be like, oh my God. So just gauge. I would say gauge your child, your bonus baby, and just, kind of see, kind of maybe like test them a little bit, see what they can handle or
Absolutely.
not.
Yeah.
And just knowing where they are in their capacity to communicate and what they need.
Gotcha.
Absolutely.
Gotcha. So yeah, it's super important to build that bond. I believe summarizing everything we just said is just trying to learn how to communicate effectively with your child. And from that, you will learn how to bond with that child. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, so, and if all else fails, y'all pray about it. Prayer works, man. Prayer
Listen,
works. It works.
for sure.
Just pray about it.
For
And,
sure.
even before approaching your child, if you feel like you're in that weird space of, with your child, go to God and be like, God, I really want this bond with my child.
Yes.
Because at the end of
Yes.
the day, yes, this is your child on earth,
God,
but
I've
they
tried
belong
all
to
that
the
I can
Lord.
in my human ability
So
and
just be
strength,
like,
but
God,
God, give me what
help
I
me
don't
with
know.
your child.
God, give me the things that you see, that you know about her, that as her mom I've missed. Give me what I need. Give me wisdom as to how to approach her, not as her necessarily as her mom,
Yes.
but in the best way possible. And God, or even, this is another prayer I pray. I love that you said this. God, open her heart to receive, because
Yeah.
sometimes when there's been pain, where there's been something that's happened, sometimes their hearts aren't receptive. And so God, open her heart in my teens and early
That's good.
years. So
Yeah.
prayer,
That's good.
it'll get there.
It is. It is. So yeah, guys, that's our best advice. Communicate and prayer. And I promise, even if the bond may not get there now, it'll get there eventually. Just keep at it. It'll get there eventually. Um, we thank you guys for supporting us and listening to these episodes. Don't forget to subscribe and share to all the mamas out there. We love you and we thank you, but Jesus loves you most. And we'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.